You're listening to The Mark Cox Show. Find everything Mark Cox at 971talk.com/Cox.
Glad you're back with us. A pretty exciting night last night for people involved in the youth sports in the area, particularly baseball and softball and youth sports education. Cardinals manager Mike Matheny, nice enough to join us today for more information on that. Coach, how are you?
Doing good, Mark. Thanks.
Hey, thanks for giving us some time today. This is exciting.
Yeah, I think it's a game changer here in our community, especially when you start talking about youth sports and specifically youth baseball and softball, and the ability to have an impact on a lot of lives. It's going to be fun to watch this come together.
You know, for people, to put it in a little bit of perspective, the other side of sports, educating the kids and building character and all that's kind of been on your agenda for a long time. I mean, I know you had your Matheny doctrine a few years back. I remember covering that when I worked at Channel 4. What kind of a role did that play in the formation of this concept?
I think a few people came together. Dan Buck spearheading this, and he being a part of the BASE Foundation, which stands for the Baseball and Softball Education Foundation, of just trying to realize that there's a huge responsibility and opportunity with coaches, and just going back and interviewing kids, not just kids that go on and play at the next level, but kids in general, and you realize the impact that coaches have and the opportunity for impact, whether it's positive or negative, and then making sure that we're making the most of that. And so with something that's so near to me, with having 5 kids who are all just athletic kids and seeing it done really well sometimes and other times not so much, it's just, I felt the need to maybe give people a perspective of what's going on, maybe at the highest level. And I've interviewed players that were teammates, guys that are in our clubhouse now, and say, tell me how your parents went about it, because I think there's some parents out there that might be a little misinformed, and how you're supposed to go about this thing, and found some consistencies, and then just trying to pass on some of that information. So that kind of got into Dan's head as well, and it's kind of his heartbeat, and as well as some of the investors. And we talked about, let's build a place that's going to draw people from not just this area, but from all over the country, all over the world, to come in that want to play here. Let's get them involved in the baseball community and down at Busch Stadium, yes, but also see the rest of St. Louis. And then while we have them in here playing on one of the nicest facilities, part of it's going to be inside in a dome, the other are going to be turf fields outside. Once they're here, then we're going to turn it into a mandatory educational platform where they're going to sit in and learn about things like teamwork, like handling failure, and also injury prevention, things that we believe altogether are going to help them in the long run, whether it's inside the game or out.
Yeah, a lot more than just catching and hitting and those sorts of things. The picture of it is impressive, the artist's rendering. It's going to be called the POWERPlex, just to let my listeners know if they're not familiar with it. It's going to be right out there in the Chesterfield Valley on land that's already next to an athletic facility, but eventually this will be even bigger than what you start with. Is that correct?
Yeah, it has the potential. There are different phases, certainly, that are in the mix. But it's also going to incorporate what's going on in Chesterfield already. It's a great facility. Problem in the Midwest is having the weather-resistant facility. So we're going to continue to try and reinvest into some of the fields there in Chesterfield to put more turf down to where when kids come in, they got a great chance of finishing their game regardless of the weather. But as we do some of these big national tournaments, especially for some of the younger kids, you're going to be able to have 3 or 4 fields inside under the dome to where you're going to have your championship rounds. And then also create an opportunity for kids to play more often. It's interchangeable, so you can put some hard courts inside. But it'll be focused mostly around baseball, softball, but we're trying to just keep kids active and try and impact as many of them as we can.
So is there anything else like this in the country? I mean, we're talking about the number of people this might draw from several states who want to come here and play their tournaments and the like. My son didn't play baseball for very long. He quit when he was fairly young, but I don't remember seeing a facility like this in my travels.
There's a few around. This will be larger than anything that's out there right now. The group we're working with, Horizon's a local company that builds these, and a lot of times they're seeing them north of the border, even into Canada, where they have to get things under roof in order to have any sort of activity like this. But there's a few of them popping up, but nothing in this region. But one of the big problems is there's so much talent here. And with my 5 kids, we've traveled all over the place, and a lot of times we'd go far down as Mississippi and into Georgia, and we'd be in a championship game against another St. Louis team. And so I think it's such a great area to attract people to. It's so centrally located, so easy to get to. But there just hasn't been that marquee facility that would draw people here from all over the country.
We're talking to Cardinals coach Mike Matheny. What's the hope for having this thing up and running?
Well, we're looking to hopefully break ground this fall. We have a lot of things in place already, a lot of very generous donations, and have an incredible cooperation with the city and with the county, and we just have so much support. Everybody kind of sees the big picture of this. And the idea of this being the actual facility owned and run by a non-for-profit, so balance that with some of the things that we're trying to do immediately around that area to kind of build up the infrastructure and just make it a place that's it's a great draw. People see the power in that. So we're hoping that everything keeps moving in a positive direction, and it looks like this fall might be when you see a shovel in the dirt.
Wow. Well, that's sure is exciting, and we'll look forward to that thing when it gets completed. Let me ask you a baseball question. I know you're playing the Reds tonight. Has Matheny still got that ball hanging off the front of him? I mean, Yachty. I said Matheny. I saw that picture of Molina with that baseball stuck to the front of his chest protector.
Yeah, I think he got that taken care of.
I didn't know. I couldn't figure out how in the world that happened, but he was looking all over the place for it. Well, good luck against the Reds tonight.
All right, thanks, Mark.
Hey,
Take care.
Thank you very much, Mike Matheny, joining us there from the Cardinals. So that's what went viral from the game last night. They lost to the Cubs, of course, but the fact that he couldn't find a ball comes in and he's looking all around for it and it's hanging off the front of his chest protector. I assume that. And the pitcher had some sticky stuff on his fingers or something. It must have stuck to the ball. I don't know. I'm just wondering. It ought to be exciting. And here's my question, because if you've listened to this program for any period of time, your first thought is, okay, there's a Major League Soccer stadium going in. How are they paying for it? So my first question was, we're going to put this beautiful sports complex in Chesterfield. Surely there's some public money involved in this. But from what I've been able to tell, this is all being privately financed. They're leasing the land from the city of Chesterfield. They have an option on an additional 24 acres they can lease later. The Senkefelds, Rex Senkefeld and his wife have committed about $6 million to this over the coming years, and they're going to have their name on an educational hub in the middle of this POWERPlex, where they'll teach kids labs and lots of different things could go on. And there are even, I guess, scout meetings, whatever. They could use the space for just about anything. It'll be unique if they get it done. Talked to one of the county council members this morning who said really the only thing that the state or the county has to do with it is that if you've been out to this land, so it sits along Highway 40 on the right side as you approach the bridge. There's already some baseball fields out there and football fields. When my son played with the Chesterfield Bears years ago, that's where they played. It's in that general area. But if you've been out there much, you know that it's not easy to get into or out of. You have to come off Chesterfield Airport Road or whatever. So there'll need to be some improvements to handle the increased traffic. But beyond that, they got $500,000 donated from Cardinals Care. And a lot of people are coming through. And, of course, Dan Buck, who I've known for many years from Channel 4 years ago before he started Channel 5. And I know he's a big baseball guy. So good for them. That'll be exciting. And I mentioned the Matheny doctrine, and the manager didn't really want to get into it. But years ago, he wrote up what was known as the Matheny Manifesto because he was frustrated with how children's sports were handled with overbearing coaches and sometimes parents and the like, and he just sat down and typed out about a 2,500-word manifesto of how things should be run, and a lot of sports organizations adopted it and said, this is a great idea. We should all make a commitment to do something like this. So that's why I wondered. It kind of sounds like there's a lot of education involved in this effort. So we'll see how that goes. All right.